Hello everybody, this is Djuntas. Today we are going to be taking a look at the last class I want to cover in my series of the best class builds in Diablo 2, the Paladin. First of all, I do want to know why I don't want to continue the series, and that is because I feel like I've already covered the most critical classes. So that would be a Sorceress, that would be a Necromancer, and that would be an Amazon. The Assassin is kinda boring. Everyone would agree that it's a trap based build. I had done 3 of those on the channel and they're all really great. Actually they're very good. Even the fire trap one, which is not as strong as the more cold oriented one with Rift Lagoon one, but it's still very good. All of them. The Necromancer is very hard to say, which I also talked about a lot in that video regarding the 3 main builds of Necromancer. And then the Barb is just too boring. Whirlwind is just gonna win on everything. Frenzy, while it's fun, it's just not better. It's also not really a playstyle that I enjoy playing, because I just find it to be kinda gimmicky and too hectic to really be fun in the long term. And then finally the Druid. Obviously, none of the Druid builds are really much good. Divine Druid is gonna win default just because it has, a decent amount of damage overall. It has a way to kind of have 2 elements going, so you can always hit stuff when you're facing immunities, etc. It's a really good build, but it's nothing that's really pops out as anything good. And the Furry Druid, which I also shown a lot on the channel, is just not worth it. It's just, it's another melee build that's very good, like a Frenzy Druid, a Whirlwind Barb, Frenzy Barbarian even, a Whirlwind Barb, but it's just not really, So today we're going to be taking a look at the last class I do want to cover, the Paladin. So the Paladin, it's actually a very good class. It has a lot of builds that you can definitely say are all viable, but the 2 main builds that I'm going to be focusing on are Sealord and Paladin. I have made my own variation of that one, at least I like to claim. It's kind of like my own little, idea for how I would like to have the build pan it out at the end, and it was very successful, which I was shown on the channel. I actually ended up claiming that it's the best melee build in Diablo 2, and I still do to this day. It is simply mwah. I love playing it. The playstyle is simple, it's fun, it's good, it's I really can't stress how much fun I have on the Tesla Paladin, which I call it. A lot of people have probably done a Tesla Paladin over the years, but I feel like the few gear variations that I did ended up just making it very good. But now enough for the introduction, let's move on. So even with a game of 5 to 4 players, the build still performs very good. I will say that once we reach those 8 players, a Hammer Paladin is gonna be better. There's no denying that the insane damage of, at least 12k hammer damage is just better than this Sealord with Grief and the Dream Rune Roads doing damage. You can't deny that. It's simply just much better on 8 players Hammer Paladins. But if you're not gonna be using it on 8 players, carrying people in public games with a bot or what do I know, then this build is honestly very good. And I did a few test runs before I started thinking about this build, this video here, and I was able to cheese a 2.5 minutes run on each build in Chaos Sanctuary. Yes, that is clear in Chaos Sanctuary, all mobs, no skipping, as per usual, all my rules when I do these test runs. And both of them can do under 3 minutes, but they can also end up doing like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. They're so close to each other that you can't say this build is faster than the other one on players 8, players 1 even, and that's kind of the cool thing with it. But anyways, as you can see here, even with a lot of people, I'm still able to, you don't really have to worry about life. You might have to use a potion now and then, whereas the Hammer Paladin, you obviously do not have to use potions ever, maybe except for a few rare times where you run out of mana. But yeah, I think that's pretty much enough for this kind of demonstration. Both builds are going to be very strong, they're going to be very equal. Let's move on to some more generic things such as gearing and kind of like my thoughts on these 2 builds compared to each other. Because it also comes down to playstyle, like how do you want to play the game? For me, I like kind of simple builds, so that's also a thing I do want to cover next up. So while the Hammer Paladin has the probably hardest playstyle of most builds in Diablo 2, with the whole tail stomping mechanic, which is actually very hard to pull off even as a skilled player, I'm definitely not skilled in that regard. The Tesla Paladin here is probably one of the most simplest builds in Diablo 2. Honestly, you have 3 buttons. That's the seal, which you just spam, you switch to your aura or your teleport, and that's all you have to think about. Eventually you also have to rebuff yourself with Holy Shield or Call to Arms, but that's about it. It's so simple, it's almost, for some people they would find it boring, but I love it. And that's kind of up to yourself. I hate tail stomp mechanics. It's excellent if you're botting, a bot always gonna be super at tail stomping. You see that in public games all the time, where a bot is just gonna be so much better than a real player, just because they have that complete AI tail stomp mechanic down. Whereas somebody who maybe jumps between a few characters now and then, they never really get to practice tail stomping that much in general. They will find it much harder to compete with bots. So playstyle, I prefer this one. We can also just quickly go over the build. It's basically just dream. It's very simple. I do lightning damage, and I do my seal damage, which is very high from grief, and then I just have a leech ring, and that's about it. It's so simple, it's almost laughable. And the cool thing is that I also can get a decent faster cast rate with a rock build and this ring here. So I have decent leech, I have AoE damage, I have very high single target and somewhat good close-up AoE with seal, and I have teleport. It's best of both things. I honestly just love it. It's so good. Then you can even use stuff like Infinity, which makes my Merc very strong. It also supports my own damage a lot, so I don't have to worry about attack rating. I'm gonna break lightning immunities, etc. This build just has so many things going for it, it's almost laughable. But let's move on to the Hammer Paladin. So then, the Hammer Paladin. The build that everyone claims is the best build in the game, which I have proven it is not time and again on the channel. So let's not dwell into the Hammer Paladin is the best build and every other build is irrelevant, because it's not. The Hammer Paladin is the best botting build for sure. It has amazing survival with an inside Mercy Chant, which I ended up betting on, because actually a Hammer Paladin is probably one of the most mana intensive builds in the game, just because the hammer costs a lot and the teleport costs a lot. But yeah, with an insight going on the Mercy Chant, etc., you never have to use potions, you're never gonna worry about dying. It's super good for botting and people who have, I don't know, they don't really want to worry about dying and just have like a relaxed playstyle or something like that. And then it's the fun thing, even on a budget gear level, not being able to access Shaco or Spirit Shield, etc., you're still gonna get a very good amount of damage for very low gear, which actually also carried me quite far into single player, which back when I did try to complete Diablo 2 on single player back then, which I talked about like once or twice in the video. The Hammer Paladin is very good even on a budget, whereas the general Sailor builds, they are not really that good without very specific gear, such as a Dracul's gloves, a very good melee weapon, maybe not grief good, but at least something very strong, which ends up it being locked to endgame, whereas this one can definitely perform without endgame gear. So yeah, that's another thing I wanted to kind of mention. But let's get triggered. Everyone hated that I'm using Crown of Ages, and go watch the guide. Why? Because it's still the best item on a Hammer Paladin over Shaco. But yeah, watch the guide for more in-depth information as to why. But yeah, the Hammer Paladin is so standard. I tried to mix it up with a draw star ring and having a lot of skills into resist fire, so I end up having a lot of assault damage to fire resistance. I thought that was pretty cool, so even fire damage is not really gonna hurt me much nowadays. So yeah, quite ended up liking this setup with Hotspurs, draw straw ring, and of course we're going with a Sacred Heart Spirit Shield, 35% faster cast rate, 125% faster cast rate. If you're not able to access, the really sweet gear with the Sacred Hearts, 35% is very important. just go with a second room shield, get a lot of life, get a lot of survival, etc. with 75% faster cast rate. The build is then also gonna be way less expensive, because then you don't need a faster cast rate amulet as well. It's just, yeah, it makes the build so less expensive, because good spirit shield like this one, a decent amulet minus crap, etc., that's very expensive. But using just a second room shield and aiming with like a Shaco, etc., it doesn't cost anything. And that's like the cool thing as well, where a decent setup for Hammer Paladin, end game gear, but even the end game gear is not that expensive. You're still gonna need an Enigma on any Hammer Paladin builds to really perform good because of the whole Tailstone mechanic. But if you're able to access an Enigma, then you really just need a Hoto, and like that's about it. You can go for a spirit shield of any sort. Sacred room shield is also not very expensive. You don't really need a helm, or even like mage feast gloves or a rack belt, etc. It's really just all about getting decent survival and having that teleport. So it's pretty fun to see. Anywho, as I mentioned before, I've never really been a fan of Hammer Paladins, and it's just down to the Tailstone mechanic. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically just hovering your mouse cursor over the enemy's target's health bar. So we can just quickly showcase it now, where there are some mobs here, and then I just hover it over, boom. So now I'm at the center of the body of the area of the mob, or whatever you can call it. And as soon as I do that, I'm just gonna switch to my concentration or spam hammers. And that's all there is really to it. So let's say if I did not have teleport, how would it fare? It would still be very good, and it would also be extremely simple to play. I would never have to switch any abilities out then. But it would just be very clunky, and I can maybe not always show that depending on the pack mobs I can find here, but you can clearly tell that the hammers are just not always gonna be hitting, and then sometimes you can spend like 10 minutes, like look at this one in the middle here. My mercy chant was literally killing the mob, even if it stood right in front of me. But if I had teleported to this position, the mercy chant would not even have been able to kill it before the first hammer hit the mob. And that's basically why we need Tailstone, because the spiraling hammers are just stupid. They're badly made in Diablo 2, it's an old game, etc. I suppose the hammers in Diablo 3, or what do I know, work a little bit better, because the spiraling out of your, the body is not really good. So yeah, that's why you basically have to get an Enigma to play a Hammer Paladin. If you can't get an Enigma, don't bother with the build. It's still okay for budget and having a fun laugh and whatnot, but I would still rather just make a Zealot then, if I was not able to access the all important Enigma. But basically, conclusion time. I like both builds. They are very good. As I told before, I did a few test runs just in Carrick Century again, done that a lot over the years or whatever. And both of these builds that I talk about in the video are basically the same speed. They're both able to do Carrick Century runs in 3 minutes without skipping any mobs. And they both do it, consistently. It's not like, oh, then one build is maybe able to like get down to 3 minutes if it's really fast in one run with a empty map, etc. No, they both do it at exactly 3 minutes every time. And it doesn't matter if I ran it like 5,000 times or 6,000 times. Sure, then one build would probably edge out the other slightly, and I might think that be the Hammer Paladin, but it also comes down to how good you are playing with the Hammer Paladin, because I'm not good at it. I don't play Diablo 2 enough in general to really keep my skills up to date, especially just also not on a class that I don't really like playing. If I enjoyed the Hammer Paladin more, I would also get better at it eventually. But yeah, as you can tell, it's not really a class that I enjoy that much. Whereas the Zealot, the Tesla Paladin, is probably the most fun build I have done in Diablo 2, next to my 200% faster cast rate Nova Sorceress, or like, I don't know, maybe a Bow Amazon build or something like that. I still feel like the multiple shot arrow builds are fun. But it's so hard to tell which is the better one, and I would like to get your thoughts going in the comments then. because maybe you could tell if there are other, decent variations of Hammer Paladin builds. Because like we could easily consider other Hammer Paladin builds, such as just the standard Sealord Hammer, the Sealord build that everyone uses for smiters and whatnot. But that's the fun thing with the Tesla Paladin build. I basically just have to switch out 2 or 3 items, maybe only 1 item, the coolest gloves, and I could easily do Ubers. That's how versatile that build is. Whereas the standard Sealord build, which I made back in like 2015. Yeah, I think it's that old. It's the same character that I use now for the Tesla Paladin. It's just not as versatile. Another Merciful died from poison damage. Anywho, we can consider other builds. You can just hop on YouTube and find like other gimmicky holy fire builds and whatnot. There's a lot of other variations, maybe aura support builds and whatnot. But for the most part, it really just comes down to Seal and Hammer. It's really that boring, but yeah. I could perhaps just mention here at the end really fast one build that is for real though, and that is of course Fist of Heavens for PvP. There's definitely a very, very good build for PvP right there. Fist of Heavens is also very fun for, lame PvP style. I don't think it's really a good mannered PvP build, but I always kind of found to be, I quite liked it. I could also just, sell out a little bit and say that I made a Vengeance Paladin guide before with Griswold, and I actually find that build to be pretty great as well, especially for a budget build. Griswold is not that expensive. Some parts don't really drop often. They, for some reason, don't really circulate in the economy as much as well. So that can make it a little bit expensive if you're going full budget. But yeah, I don't want to make the video that much longer. So thank you so much for watching. Do leave your comments what you think are the best Paladin builds, if I missed out on any builds in general, anything like that. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.